Hi, welcome to Daily Arena. This is Joe. Today I'm going to be going over a blue-black control deck tech that I got off of EtherHub. I've seen a lot of people playing this, or at least talking about it on Reddit. I actually haven't run into a lot of it in the game, and I thought I would take a look at one of the deck lists and go through the cards that are in it, what the cards do, what might be budget replacements for those cards while you're trying to save up your wild cards, etc. Okay, let's just look at the cards now. The Scarab God is the main win condition of this deck. If your opponent doesn't deal with it immediately by countering it, exiling it, or pacifying it, then it'll get out of hand very quickly. If you are able to create even a single zombie, then the Scarab God gives you real inevitability through your opponent slowly losing life, while you can scry all the gas you need to the top of your deck. Scarab God is probably the best win condition that you're going to get for this deck, but other finishers like Glyphkeeper and Nezahal Primal Tide can substitute while you're waiting for more mythic wildcards. Champion of Wits gives you a double loot when it enters the battlefield the first time, and if it dies it comes back and lets you draw 4 cards and keep 2 of them. This is very high value creature, and watching this die and come back filling your hand with good spells can be very demoralizing to your opponent. Even if your opponent counters a Champion of Wits, you get good value. It's really only weak to exile and pacifism effects. If you don't have 4 Champion of Wits, I'd use card draw spells as a temporary replacement, spells like Pull from Tomorrow and Secrets of the Golden City. Ravenous Chupacabra is probably the best uncommon around. Good in basically any deck that plays black, it's a built-in 2-for-1, killing an opponent's creature while netting you a 2/2 body, which in turn becomes that much more fodder for the Scarab God eventually. You're going to want to prioritize instant speed and exile removal over this one, but you probably want a couple in the deck. Dusk Legion Zealot draws you a card for a single black mana plus 1 life. That's a great deal in this deck already, and Dusk Legion Zealot has the added upside of being able to chump block and eventually return as a 4/4 zombie thanks to the Scarab God. Vraska's Contempt is this deck's premium removal spell. It deals with both creatures and planeswalkers permanently at instant speed. You want a complete playset of Vraska's Contempt in this deck once you're able. Unfortunately it's rare, so you might have a hard time collecting them. While you're working on collecting the wildcards to craft Vraska's Contempt, you can put Impales and maybe more Ravenous Chupacabras in this slot. Settle the Score is coming soon in Dominaria as well, and making a decent budget it makes a decent budget replacement for Vraska's Contempt, although not hitting Planeswalkers is a real strike against any of these. Supreme Will functions as a mana leak early in the game, and once mana leak becomes bad, replaces itself with your choice of card from the top 4 of your deck, which will frequently be a situational upgrade. The flexibility is what makes this card really good, as neither mode is great at 3 mana, and you probably don't want to run more than a couple of them in the deck. Essence Scatter's downside is that it only hits creatures. In the current Magic Arena environment, most of the threats you need to deal with via a counterspell are creatures, and Essence Scatter is so much easier to cast than cancel that I choose it every time. Some other flexible counters that can hit non-creature spells like Censor, Supreme Will, and Commit to Memory are important to keep in the deck for when you need them, or when you need other modes. Hieroglyphic Illumination is a nice 2-for-1 when you cast it, and when you can't afford to, it cycles away efficiently. This is exactly the kind of draw spell you want a couple of in this deck, and fits right in with the other cards that gain you incremental value over time. Censor works as a decent counter spell for the first 4 or 5 turns of the game, and when it's no good countering spells anymore, it cycles away on the cheap, helping you dig through your deck for the other cards you need to close out the game. The commit side of Commit to Memory kicks a threatening spell or permanent down the road, giving you time to find a hard counter or answer, or just win the game before it comes back. The memory side refills your hand when you've run out of good cards and can mess with your opponent's plans when used carefully. Moment of Craving is cheap removal that can take care of small utility creatures and blockers, as well as help deal with cards like Adanto Vanguard. As indestructibility doesn't save a creature from getting -X/-X to death. The life gain is a nice little bonus. Arguel's Bloodfast is a card draw engine. If you get this out in the first 5 turns and can just draw cards whenever you want to, it starts to feel like you can't lose the game. If you transform it to Temple of Aclazotz, you can use it to get the Scarab God out from under a pacifism aura as well. I don't have 2 of these yet, so I've replaced one temporarily with an unsummon, which serves a dual role of getting the Scarab God out from under pacifisms, and also killing tokens generated by Embalm and Eternalize heavy token decks. Liliana, Death's Majesty, can do really good work in this deck. She can make an army of zombies to help the Scarab God finish off your opponent more quickly, they attack as well, and she also allows you to get extra value out of Champion of Wits, Ravenous Chupacabra, and Dusk Legion Zealot. If that's not enough, her ultimate can break board stalls against token decks, as long as the tokens aren't all zombies. Field of Ruin basically does 2 things. A. Destroy rare transform lands once they've transformed, and B. Bait your opponent into shuffling their library after they've tutored something to the top. It has some edge utility in denying mana to your opponent if they have only 1 land they need for fixing, but that's rare. Fetid Pools and Drowned Catacomb are the best mana fixing lands available in these colors. Fetid Pools comes in tapped, but you can cycle it away when you don't need the land. The cycling ability on Fetid Pools more than makes up for coming in tapped in this deck. Drowned Catacomb comes in untapped if you already have an island or a swamp, which is really easy ask in this deck. Since I care less about coming in tapped in this deck, I'd prioritize Fetid Pools over Drowned Catacomb. Desert of the Mindful and Desert of the Glorified make decent budget replacements for Fetid Pools, and while you're working on your collection of Drowned Catacombs, you can just play Submerged Boneyards instead. And, well, that's all the cards in this deck. It's pretty fun to play. It seems to have a high win rate. I'm gonna have more to say about it once I get some more gameplay under my belt, and I will be coming back with an update when that happens. Until then, I'll see you all later. Peace.